This is a debate between Destiny, Alex Jones, Glenn Greenwald, and a couple of other far-right nutter butters. So I wanted to give this a listen. It's on Destiny's YouTube channel. It's actually pretty fascinating to listen to. So let's see what they have to say to each other. It is bound to be absolutely psychotic. And while we do, we're going to play Breath of the Wild 2. It should just be in the background if you've never played it. It won't bother you too much. By the way, you can see Zero Hedge on the screen here. I guess Zero Hedge sponsored this or something? I don't know. Zero Hedge is a known disinformation network connected to Russia. They basically run Zero Hedge. Oop.
What would have happened if Pence would have thrown out the vote?
No, that's a hypothetical. Trump wanted a 10-day investigation.
No, but
I don't care
he
what Trump
also
wanted.
wanted Pence to throw out the
what would have happened? What would you have called that?
Him and Eastman were pushing for that.
Yeah, what would we have called that? Can I get a name for that? If you don't want to call it a coup or an insurrection, what would you call that?
Well, I'd
Dude, I love it. It's just dead silent.
call it taking Trump off the ballot and saying we can't vote for him.
I know you won't answer because you probably know he's guilty. That's fine. What about
I
you
know
or
he's
Glenn?
guilty.
Glenn, what would you call it if the president was able to entrench his power by asking his vice president to throw out the vote unilaterally, which is what he was trying to do? Do you want to deny the facts? Do you want to deny that it's a coup? What part?
A coup.
Why didn't he call them off immediately if he thought it didn't make him look good?
It was happening while he was giving a speech.
Wrong. The reason why he didn't call them off is because him, Giuliani, and Eastman were making phone calls to other senators and congressmen asking them to decertify the electoral vote.
No.
You were there, but you weren't.
Do you acknowledge that happened, or do you not acknowledge it?
We're talking about the crowd.
I don't care about the crowd.
Oh.
Right, so the crowd... Oh my god, dude, there's so much stuff happening outside right now. So the crowd was the one that committed the coup, is what Alex Jones was implying. He's saying that the crowd was guilty, apparently, but not Donald Trump.
I'm saying that as the riot was raging on and he was sitting there sipping his Diet Coke, if this really made him and his followers look bad, why didn't Donald Trump make a video immediately?
I'm about to do it because I can talk over you really easy.
That's what you've been doing the whole time.
No, you're doing it.
I look forward to you dodging the question again. Go ahead.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
No, you.
So, you.
No, you. I love it. That's funny. Destiny's just trolling the dude now.
No, you.
You.
No, you. Both of you.
Keep doing it.
Jump into it. I want to introduce our panel of incredible people, as I said earlier, and I'm going to start from the end.
Okay, Ian Crossland here. He is Tim Pool's co-host, I think, on his thing or whatever, and he's completely insane. He's a Nazi. He's a full-blown Nazi. They had Kanye West on, and Ian Crossland basically completely agreed with everything that, he basically said that in Kanye West's effort to talk about Hitler, he basically was opening the eyes of lots of Jews, and that was success in his eyes because Jews will come to Jesus. It's psychotic stuff, man. So should give you a little context for who this dude is.
And give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves. We have Ed Krasenstein.
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Ed Krasenstein. You know me on X at
I don't actually know who this is.
Ed Krasen. Also, the twin brother of Brian.
Thanks for pointing out that it's Krasenstein, not Krasenstein.
Well, it can actually be either. You can do Krasenstein or Krasenstein, and I really don't care what you use. So.
It's Frankenstein, not Stein.
Oh, dude, that reference, people may not know that. There's a movie called Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks. My dad loved Mel Brooks. I saw Blazing Saddles when I was 10 or something. And that movie is not really appropriate for adults nowadays, but... yeah, Mel Brooks is just the best. He's fantastic. He's a Jewish guy that fought in World War II with the Americans. Fought the Nazis in World War II. He's still alive to this day. He's got what is he 100 now? I don't know. Anyways, Mel Brooks is awesome.
Not Frankenstein. But
that was Alex Jones, if you didn't know. We also have Brian Krasenstein.
Hey, Ian. It's great to be here. I'm Brian Krasenstein, known as Krasenstein on X. Ed's slightly better looking and more intelligent twin brother.
And deprecating jokes. Oh my God. Don't do deprecating jokes, people. Krasenstein. I've never heard of them before. Brian and Ed Krasenstein? Is that right? Yeah, Brian and Ed Krasenstein. They have roughly 800,000 followers, looks like. Oh, and Ed has 1 million followers. Brian has 800,000. Interesting. Okay.
And modest as well. Probably the most modest of the Krasensteins. Next to Brian, we have Stephen Bonnell, known as Destiny. What's
I think it's Stephen Bonnell.
happening, man?
Hey, what's up? You know me on YouTube at Destiny. My real life name is Steven, and I scream and shout at people on the internet for a living.
Next to this dude, we got Alex Jones. Alex, explain
Who needs no introduction.
yourself.
Well, I don't think I probably needed much of an introduction, but I mean, I was there on January 6th, and I saw what happened. And so
You saw what happened from the ground. You didn't see the emails that were sent between Trump's campaign, Trump's, aides and stuff like that, and lawyers that were attempting to take the presidency despite the election results. So you were on the ground. Oh, by the way, and if you were on the ground, you would know that it was a coup attempt.
it's a very important discussion we're about to have tonight. I'm glad everybody came. We need to have more of this, not just left and right, but just different groups of people debating and discussing. I'm really glad that Zero Hedge and their great subscription service, people supporting it, is financed.
Again, Zero Hedge is proven to be a Russian disinformation network, at the very least connected to Russia, and spreads disinformation on their behalf.
This, and so you're going to see a lot more of this with people supporting Zero Hedge. And so I'm just honored to be here with you guys in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Zero Hedge. Great company. Great people, too. Really great people involved with the company. And to your left, my right, Darren Beatty. What's happening, man?
Great to be here. Thank you. I'm Darren Beatty. I run a news site called Revolver.news, which is reported extensively on January 6th. And you can also see me on X at Darren J. Beatty.
And you're a Trump advisor and speechwriter.
Yes.
And a former professor. And you helped quarterback a lot of the groundbreaking stuff that Tucker Carlson put up.
Indeed.
Wow, that's actually a really impressive resume.
So I'll sing your praises since you.
Thank you.
And we also have coming in remote live, Glenn Greenwald from your studio in Brazil.
It's super sad about Glenn Greenwald. If you don't know this dude, he probably got most famous for breaking the PRISM documentation. Like, he worked with Edward Snowden to blow the lid off of this government program that was spying on everybody in the name of the Patriot Act. And oh my God, dude, it's just bad. It's just really, really, it was terrible. And Glenn Greenwald was, I think he got like a Pulitzer Prize at one point. I don't know if it was for that or whatever else, but he's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. And now he's a right-wing extremist. It is so sad to see somebody fall so hard like that. Man, it's a real shame.
What's happening, Glenn?
Hey, everybody.
I mean, the guy, at this point, Glenn Greenwald is very obviously, like, intentionally doing this knowingly, in my opinion.
Glenn Greenwald, I'm a journalist. I'm the host of System Update on Rumble. I had planned to be there in person. A little logistical problems intervened, and I wish I could be, but I'm really looking forward to participating. And I just want to echo Alex. I think what Zero Hedge is doing is so important, organizing these kind of substantive structured debates among people who obviously disagree pretty strongly on things, and yet nonetheless can have what I hope will be a civil and spirited debate, what I expect it will be. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I appreciate being asked.
Yes, that is my job, is to make sure that it maintains civility, structure, organization, and that we don't talk over each other, that we end up listening to each other. The real value of humanity, one of the most powerful tools we have, is communication. So I think tonight's going to be an exemplary example of that.
An exemplary example, huh? Okay.
Let's go for this.
He knows that he just made a social faux pas.
The first question I got for you guys, and this is really for the entire panel, and anyone that wants to start it off, maybe we can start with you, Ed, since just because you're on the end and we can move around, is January 6, 2021. Was it an insurrection? And before you answer,
yes, it was.
Before you answer, I want to read this. This is actually what it's called 18 U.S. Code 2383, rebellion or insurrection.
Yeah, let me do an overhead shot. This is right out of Cornell Law here.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to start reading this. This is according to...
Wait, where are they hosting? Is this at, like, InfoWars headquarters? Is that where this is being hosted?
To the U.S. Code, whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States.
Okay, well, let me step back and listen to what the conditions were again.
All right, I'm going to start reading this. This is according to the U.S. Code. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States.
Okay, anyone who basically takes part or gives aid and comfort to a rebellion against the authorities in the U.S.
Or the laws.
Or the laws of the country. Okay.
States. It technically doesn't define insurrection. It's the code talking about what I guess what an insurrection is. Of course, they use the word insurrection in the actual code itself. But what do you think? Do you guys think it was an insurrection?
So
it was an insurrection.
I personally believe it was an insurrection. And I base that on the fact that 20 court decisions called it an insurrection.
Dude, are these people on the left?
And the fact that there was a bill passed in the Senate that called them a mob of insurrectionists. I think the bill passed, or it was in the House of Representatives, 406 to 21.
Whether January 6th was an insurrection or not, it was, but whether it was or not, it was still effectively an insurrection for Trump to attempt his fake slate of electors thing. That was absolutely an attempt to bypass the laws of the United States and rebel against the governing authorities.
That was a statute to award the police officers medals, and it referred to these individuals as insurrectionists. So, I mean, I think the term can be subjective. I think,
No, it's not. I mean, it's laid out pretty clearly. It's not subjective. He was either engaging in insurrection or he wasn't.
People
Well, that was weird.
Can say nobody was charged with violating Section 2383 of Title 18, which is insurrection and rebellion statute. And nobody was, right? But I don't think that defines whether the event was an insurrection. When I say insurrection, I don't mean everybody there was partaking in insurrection. There were people who were peaceful. The people who walked into the Capitol and did nothing, I don't think that they were insurrectionists. I think they
were giving cover to the insurrectionists, though, probably unknowingly, even maybe. But the insurrectionists, the actual people who were setting out to intentionally cause complete chaos so that they could get in to the Capitol the way that they were trying to, those people were definitely insurrectionists. Like Joe Biggs, who else was it? Stuart Rhodes, and people like that.
Violated the law, but I don't think they were partaking in insurrection. I do think the Proud Boys were partaking in insurrection.
Without a doubt, yes, absolutely. So were the Oath Keepers.
I think you could say Donald Trump incited the insurrection. I do.
Destiny, what do you think, man?
I would say the plot from start to finish is quite obviously an insurrection. The only way to get
no doubt
around that is to either justify an insurrection, which is what most conservatives do, they don't realize it, or to deny that an insurrection could ever happen, or if you're not aware of all the facts of what happened. I think that Donald Trump and his cronies had a very coherent plan that they tried to enact from start to finish, starting with false claims of voter fraud, leading to false slates of electors that filed themselves as state electors under perjury, which is what they did, up to the violence that happened on the day of the certification of the vote, where Donald Trump and his friends continued to try to delay the peaceful transfer of power by contravening the certification of the Electoral College vote.
Absolutely.
And what I want to make sure that we don't force this into like what they want to call a debate where you got to be called on or anything. So if any of you guys, Glenn, you as well, man, if any of you guys want to jump in.
Yeah, two of them just went. I want Glenn to go, but I just want to say something here. I was there. And I was
okay. Like the dude at the beginning said, Ed or whatever, or Brian, one of the two. He said there were lots of people there who may have unwittingly been participating. I think Alex Jones was probably wittingly participating, if you will, but for some reason he wasn't charged. I don't know what happened there. Either way, I think that there were lots of unwilling or unwitting participants, if you will. And that's possible to still have an insurrection and still have people unaware of what was going on around them.
I was investigated and subpoenaed by the Justice Department in at least 5 criminal investigations, and I was forced to testify in front of the Jan 6 committee, which they've now been destroying their records because the records show the opposite of what they said.
No, they don't. And I don't know what he's talking about, destroying the records. My God, dude. This guy just tosses out conspiracy theory after lie after, deceitful statement, one after another, doesn't he?
Trump and all of us had a stage rented by the Supreme Court. He was supposed to have another rally there. We showed up. Before Trump ever finished his speech, people were getting tear gas and hit by bullets.
I remember, yeah. Trump wanted to go to the Capitol with them, and Secret Service wouldn't let him. They said, no, it's too dangerous. You are not going to the Capitol right now. And he was pissed. Oh, my God, from my understanding. According to testimonies that took place under oath, he was mad. Oh, God.
And there were a bunch of provocateurs leading an attack against the police, and they broke through. And then this 1 million+ people then got blamed as insurrectionists, and Biden gave a big speech yesterday saying they're all terrorists. So,
he didn't say everybody at the Capitol on January 6th was a terrorist. He said that MAGA extremism is a branch of domestic terrorists. There are terrorists within the group. Of course there are.
But by that...
I mean, there are terrorists within PETA, domestic terrorists. How is this guy refusing to accept that there are domestic terrorists within this group, this right-wing, far-right extremist group?
And Biden gave a big speech yesterday saying they're all terrorists. So by that extension, Kamala Harris, as the VP candidate, was bailing people out of jail that burned down police stations and firebombed federal buildings.
What is he talking about? It's complete nonsense. I don't know anything about her bailing people out, but I know he's referring to Black Lives Matter protests. This is just complete garbage. This did not happen. I live in New York City. Okay, I live in Manhattan. It's not a chaotic mess. This is the safest, cleanest, nicest city, New York City as a whole, that I have ever seen in my life. Not just lived in, but ever seen in my life. It's not a war zone. It's not dangerous. There aren't extremist nutcase protesters running around trying to hurt people or whatever other nonsense these people want to lay down. Don't believe any of that garbage. It's not happening.
So and the idea of Biden's speech yesterday, making his whole campaign about January 6th, saying political violence is never good. The Democrats are the ones that call for political violence. So I was there.
Wait, so is Alex Jones willing to say that political violence is wrong? Is he going to denounce political violence as well then? He's just saying, well, the left is doing it, instead of also denouncing it himself. Now, Alex Jones, in my opinion, probably believes in political violence. He probably thinks it's a good thing because it will get his goals accomplished.
With a bullhorn, I can only reach 100 yards out when the tear gas was hitting me, saying, don't go in, don't fight the police. This is a setup. And we have hundreds of videos. And so regardless of what the left tries to do, they're all out there of people taking off their Antifa stuff and putting on the Trump garb.
Wait a minute. You can only have it one way. Either it was Antifa or it was Trump supporters. He just said the Trump people that he was with on that day were, going into the Capitol. He was telling them don't do it. And now he's saying that it was all Antifa. Are you kidding me? He said he saw Antifa people taking it off. Okay, great. Then show me one single example of it. We have 1 billion videos from that day. Show me one example of an Antifa person putting on Trump garb that they didn't have on before. This dude is such a joke. Seriously.
And the police fake arresting people, attacking them, and then high-fiving them. I mean, this has all come out in the new footage, and it's all getting...
Wait, fake arresting them? How were they fake
They would grab them and
right? What?
Arrest them and then drag them in and then high-five them, take the handcuffs off.
What would the point of that be? I don't understand.
And high-five them. Those videos, what people are going to take everything I say, they're going to put it on X and show what I said. That's where we dominate.
Yeah,
and so what I'm getting at here, let me tell you this. What I'm getting at here is they now admit hundreds of federal officers were there. So when Trump started his speech, this whole thing began with Ray Epps saying, go into the Capitol.
Oh my God, dude, leave Ray Epps alone. The guy was a Trump nutcase, an extremist, and he was trying to do exactly what his God Emperor encouraged his people to do, which is storm the Capitol, You know, he had an early jump on this. He was not working with federal agents, or he's not a federal agent himself. The dude is the target of insane conspiracy theories now because thanks to Tucker Carlson. And he has to like hide in the mountains in a little trailer now because if he goes out, people all know his name and see him. And he can't like go anywhere without fear of being like murdered or something by nutcase Trump supporters. You got to feel for him, a little bit at least.
He told the Jan 6 committee, yeah, it's true. It's in his text messages. He told family, I orchestrated it. So under pressure, they
What the hell is he talking about?
finally indicted him, but only recommend 6 months. So a few hundred people got manipulated into fighting the police. They were led and driven by provocateurs and other groups. They were.
Oh, it's everyone else's fault that I ran in and started attacking people. It was my fault. All my bad behavior. I'm sorry. It was their fault. All my bad behavior was their fault, not mine. Theirs. What happened to personal responsibility? Don't these people talk about it all the time?
Others, then they open the doors and the police wave them in hundreds of videos. They walk between the velvet ropes and then they indict over 1,000 people that just walked through velvet ropes. And then now we're told in the National Security Directive of President Biden, the number one threat is the American people. And he had a declaration of war yesterday.
The number one threat is the American people? What are you talking about?
Against all Trump supporters and says to protect democracy, we're not going to let you vote for Trump. So as Stalin said, I care not who casts the votes, I care who counts them. Well,
dude, what is he talking about? God, it's just like one bizarre, ridiculous, nonsensical claim after another.
Biden doesn't care who casts the votes. He cares who's allowed on the ballot. So we've already won. No one's buying this. And when this happened 3 years ago.
By the way, this is called a Gish Gallop. He's just hitting claim after claim after claim after claim and realizing that, like, nobody can debunk all of those claims at once. He realizes that they're going to go around the table now, and the people that are debunking or rebutting him only have an opportunity to do it for one or two of the claims. They can't do it for all of them. So naturally, he has an advantage here. The Gish Gallop.
The Wall Street Journal had to print a retraction, but they said I was there as a coward telling people to attack. Well, no, they wouldn't let me put the video on Twitter where I was saying don't go in. But the truth is it's coming out. And so that's the bottom line here. And this attempt by Biden to cast the American people as the enemy in all these movies about martial law and civil war and race war. That's their only hope because the corrupt, evil Democratic Party.
Wait, what movies? What is he talking about? Movies about martial law and civil war?
And its evil twin, the Republicans, they've lost power and populism is rising. Quite frankly, this was not an insurrection. It was an insurrection that would have been guns. And it's in the Declaration of Independence that.
Oh, so guns have to be involved for anybody to ever commit an insurrection. Okay, great. So I guess that means that Biden can just take control of the government right now and it's not insurrection, huh?
It's our right and duty to get rid of a government that's destructive of what the people want. But I'm not calling for violence. We're winning this politically, but we're being cast as about to be violent in the next 10 months because all these indictments and all these attacks to not let Americans vote for who they want aren't working and are backfiring. And all the big Democrat lawyers now admit it. Axelrod admits it. Carville admits it. They all admit this attempt, like we're in Venezuela.
God, dude, is he going to stop talking? This is one sentence, isn't it? This is one big, long sentence.
Or something to take Trump off the ballot when he's never been convicted of insurrection. This is a military tribunal, U.S. code from the Civil War. If a military tribunal found you were guilty of being involved in insurrection, that meant after the war ended.
Can I ask you a question?
Run for office.
Yes, oh my God, interrupt. He just won't shut up.
Alex, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So do you think the Confederates during the Civil War were partaking in insurrection?
I mean, in retrospect,
I don't. Just answer the question. It's yes or no. Why are you going? Just tell us. Were they committing an insurrection or not?
Were partaking in insurrection?
I mean, in retrospect, because I wasn't alive then,
Oh my God, it's yes or no, Alex.
I think the South got manipulated into that. I thought there was real issues between the North and South, the abolitionists.
He's not giving us a yes or no. This dude is a joke. How does anybody respect anything he says or listen to a word out of his mouth?
Had a good point, and slavery needed to end, but it was really about the North.
So just to be clear, the person that's defending the J6 riders won't say that the Confederate States were engaged in insurrection.
Well, that's not what I see. Here's what happens.
Yes or no?
Easy question.
No, hold on. That's not true.
That's what it sounded like.
He wouldn't just tell us, yes, it was insurrection. It was a yes or no answer.
Like you said, we can correct the record. So do you think they were engaged in insurrection?
I was trying to talk, and the thing I said was, I think the South was wrong, and then you just said that I support what the South did. No.
I didn't say you supported that. I said that you said that they weren't engaged in insurrection. Do you think the Confederate States were engaged in insurrection?
Was that because there were rebellions during Reconstruction at the end of the Civil War?
Dude, he was asked a yes or no question multiple times, the same yes or no, and he's just going off on this weird tangent.
Into the Civil War, and they were saying if you lead an uprising against the Northern occupation of the South, you're precluded from running from office because they were worried about Southerners getting office again, like Jefferson. No, I do not support the Civil War.
My God, he was asked a yes or no question. It was somebody else's turn, Alex. He just won't shut his mouth and let somebody else speak.
Or slavery, and I'm not a, quote, Confederate,
Okay, but
and we're
was
not
it an
really fighting that.
insurrection?
That's
Was
not
that-
what I
that's
said.
Okay, nobody claimed he was a Confederate. The question was, do you think the Civil War was an insurrection? The point wasn't even to make him seem like a Confederate. The point was to demonstrate the fact that there is no case in which he thinks that insurrection is real or can actually happen. He doesn't think insurrection takes place. So in this case, of course, Trump didn't commit insurrection because it's not a real thing that people can do. They're supposed to rebel against the government. My God.
My question is, was it an insurrection? Yes or no?
Yes, if you were, no.
No. I guess that's clear, isn't it? No. I mean, I know that it seemed like he was saying, no, I refuse to yield to your framing, but that seems pretty clear to me. He said no when asked a yes or no.
The law, yes, I think that it was a civil war, and you could say an insurrection.
Okay, so is it insurrection? Did anybody get charged with insurrection rebellion?
What I'm saying is...
With violating statute. Did anybody
you're
get
not
charged?
listening.
No, I'm asking you. You just said it was insurrection. Did anybody get charged with violating the insurrection and rebellion statute?
Yes, people did. You have to
No,
charge
because there was no statute there. That's my point.
No,
Oh, I love it.
You don't need
tribunal
to.
found
You
that
don't
you did
need.
it.
You don't need to violate that statute in order to be partaking in insurrection, because the Civil War was an insurrection.
Okay, well, you
and
know...
Okay, sure, I agree with that. But it's not subjective. Earlier he said it's subjective. You committed insurrection or not. What is the definition of insurrection? Whether that's defined within the law or not, there is a definition of insurrection.
Nobody got charged with violating
you're not
that.
listening. This
No,
came-
that's
this
what I'm
came at the
saying.
end of the Civil
That's my
War.
point, Alex.
Reconstruction.
You're changing the
Here,
subject because you know it's correct.
Even the Democratic Party lawyers on CNN say you have to be convicted under the 14th Amendment of this before you can be. You can't just
You don't get
because
convicted
a
under the 14th
congressional-
Amendment.
hold
You get
on.
convicted
A
under
congre-
Section
hold on. That's a lie.
2383 of
You hold
Title
the word down.
18.
Well,
Yeah, the 14th Amendment is more of like a definition. I don't think it's something you can be convicted under. I could be wrong.
let's slow down a little. Let's slow down a little.
A congressional resolution to give awards to Capitol Police is not a conviction of Donald Trump to remove him from the ballot. He's been indicted for saying they stole an election. So now they want to take him off the ballot so
be
you
clear, he
can't
hasn't
vote for
been
him,
indicted
which
for
is
that.
pure stealing of an election.
I think
this is not, he's the Yankee. He's not somebody in Georgia.
Oh my God, dude. Now Alex is just going to lose his shit and act like he's some persecuted minority or some other shit.
He's not Robert E. Lee. This has nothing to do with
I know,
it.
but
Also, as
my
a quick
point,
fact check,
you-
on the 14th Amendment, it doesn't require a conviction under Section
Yeah, I
3.
got-
You
I
can
got it.
literally put it on the text on the screen. There's
No.
it does not say needs to be
I
convicted.
guess we need to define
So
the
nobody-
difference. Alex, 1 second. We need to define the difference between the casual term insurrection and the legal definition of insurrection.
Dude, I love that Alex Jones started this whole thing by saying, I'm going to give Glenn Greenwald a chance to talk in a second, and then he proceeded to say a 15-minute long sentence, a single sentence.
Action.
Yes.
Well, there's another thing we need to talk about. So, yes, there's the casual term. There's the etymology of the term insurrection, which simply suggests a rising up. So by that definition, that could encompass a wide range of things.
Black Lives.
Oh, give me a break. He says Black Lives Matter. Give me a break, man. A rising up. So Black Lives Matter was simply a protest, and it didn't even get out of hand. I suppose that in some cases there were cities that, were dealing with serious problems. But again, New York City was perfectly fine. I live here. It isn't a mess. It wasn't destroyed. It's still here. Everything is fine. And every time these people claim that, New York City is being destroyed or being leveled by Black Lives Matter or whatever, I just look out my window and see everything continuing on as normal. There's nothing crazy or special or insane that happened.
Lives Matter.
Wait. So there's a rising up. Then there's the legal definition, but we have politically weaponized court systems. So that's not even, I think, a proper standard. I think the proper standard is the sweep of a proper historical perspective.
Okay, he's saying instead of relying on the courts to determine if he was an insurrectionist, we should look at the history of the term insurrection, I guess, right?
Does the event of January 6th compare to the antecedent that we've been discussing this?
It doesn't matter. He's saying, does it compare to the Civil War? It doesn't matter if it compares to it. It can come in degrees. It doesn't have to be as intense as a war to still be effectively an insurrection. Insurrection and war are not the same thing. They don't mean the same thing.
Civil War. So if the question is Civil War an insurrection? My question is the scope and scale of the event of January 6th comparable to the Civil War? Because Joe Biden has
It doesn't matter if the scope and scale are comparable. The scope and scale have nothing to do with whether or not an insurrection took place. I imagine insurrections to be very small, focused, directed, specific events where something is supposed to take place, instantaneously, basically. Like, it doesn't have to be war. It doesn't have to be killing or fighting or whatever. It can be an attempt to bypass or completely ignore the laws of the country or the authorities. But Vladimir Putin has effectively what's like a private army called the Wagner Group, and they get convicts and people who need money and stuff like that, and they enlist them. Generally, it's people with basically no fighting experience. They're just cannon fodder to go to the front lines and throw waves of people at the enemy, knowing that most of them are going to die, but that's okay. That's what they're for, That's the general philosophy behind the Wagner Group. The leader of the Wagner Group, God, I can't remember his name all of a sudden, but he was Putin's personal chef for a while when Putin was just a governor, I believe, of an area. The guy lived in that area, and, he owned a restaurant nearby, and he, had Putin come in all the time and worked with him and stuff. And eventually he was put in charge of the Wagner Group. That guy was. Well, that guy's dead now because he committed an insurrection against Vladimir Putin by running his Wagner Group troops through the streets of Russia. And it only took like 3 hours or something, or maybe even just a day. I don't know. It didn't take that long. He made it like all the way to one of their major cities before, Putin convinced him to stop. And within a week of that, the guy, I don't know what happened to him. He died. Fell out of a window of an airplane or something. I don't know. Anyways, That's what happens with Putin. You get pushed out windows a lot, even if it's in an airplane. The point is that was an insurrection, but it was nowhere near the scale of the Civil War. It doesn't have to be on the scope or scale of the Civil War to be an insurrection. It just doesn't.
Directly made this comparison, which I think is flatly ridiculous, and that comparison has to be valid in order for these ridiculous Section 3 arguments to have any force or legitimacy. And I think
no, it doesn't have to be as bad as the Civil War. Doesn't even have to include war at all.
Any common
lie on its
sense.
face. It's a lie. I'm going to shut up. It's a lie on its face. They say it's bigger than Pearl Harbor and 9/11. That is bull.
Okay, so here, let me finish what my point.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't heard anybody say it's bigger than Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Where is he getting that from? I have not even thought about the comparison between January 6th and Pearl Harbor and 9/11. They were completely different events done for different reasons, by different people, totally unconnected from each other. I'm really not sure what the hell he's talking about right now.
Do that, and then I want to go to Glenn for a second.
So my
after you do
point
that.
is that two things. The Civil War was an insurrection. I think it's hard to argue that. Nobody got charged with a crime of violating the insurrection and rebellion statute.
Dude, I can't even believe that Alex Jones argued that it wasn't, or just wouldn't. He refused to come out and say that the Civil War wasn't an insurrection. My God.
383. What about 1992, the LA riots? George Herbert Walker Bush, he invoked the Insurrection Act. 12,000 people were arrested. 63 people were killed. Hundreds were injured. Was that an insurrection? What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's a declaration of federal martial law.
But was it an insurrection? Because nobody there was charged with violating. Nobody there was charged with violating Section 2383, the Insurrection and Rebellion statute.
Man, that's an interesting point. If you guys don't know about or remember the LA riots or whatever, I don't remember them. I wasn't alive at the time, or I was alive, but I don't remember anything about it. There was a guy. Rodney King is his name. He was pulled over for something. I don't know what. This is like right when video cameras started to get popular and were roughly commercially available. Rodney King got pulled over for something, and somebody in a nearby house pulled out their video camera, which was old as sin. It was gigantic and clunky, They pointed the video camera out the window at what was happening with Rodney King, and watched as the dude got the shit beat out of him by the police. More and more cop cars showed up. When I was little, I actually had a negative view of Rodney King. I had no idea who he was or what happened, but I thought he was a scumbag automatically, surprisingly. I don't know, I wasn't allowed to have political views when I was little, and my parents weren't either, but that should show you what, the completely unaffiliated, down-the-middle, independent voter believed. Because I just wasn't involved in politics in any way, but I just got little bits and pieces of news and information here or there. And I thought Rodney King was terrible. Well, no, he's just a guy that got pulled over, got the shit beat out of him by a cop, and then another cop car pulls in. That cop gets out and starts beating the shit out of him. Another car pulls up, starts beating the shit out of him. I think there were 16 cop cars that pulled up or something like that. And were just beating him half to death. Did he die? I don't think he died, but either way, the police were charged with the crime because for the first time, we had video evidence of police doing this to black people, something that everybody knew had been happening all along. Well, something the black community knew was happening all along that they kept denying. Oh, you're not mistreated by the police. You guys are just being, dramatic about the whole thing. Black people are treated just the same as everybody else by the police. For the first time, we had video evidence, and the police are charged. And finally, when the trial comes and everybody is sitting in the courtroom, they were let off the hook. The police, after beating the shit out of a black person on film, they were let go. They were freed. They were exonerated and acquitted and whatever. And there was absolute outrage. over that for good reason. That's what caused the LA riots. LA went absolutely batshit insane, justifiably. Not long after that, I'm not sure exactly how long after, but O.J. Simpson killed his wife and was put on trial for murder. And from my understanding, he was guilty. He was guilty as they come of killing his wife. But the black community and the white community were so divided at the time that the black community wanted a black man to get away with murder as payback for what happened to Rodney King. I mean, it was just like a different environment. And I believe one of the jurors even came out and said that eventually. I don't even remember. But anyways, O.J. Simpson absolutely did it. But Rodney King was 100% innocent in that whole scenario and was beat to shit anyways, and the cops were let off the hook for it. So anyway, that's what caused the LA riots. George H.W. Bush, I guess, was president and he did the Insurrection Act. I didn't realize that. Interesting.
Nobody there was charged with violating Section 2383, the Insurrection and Rebellion statute. But we still consider that an insurrection,
I
right?
mean, by that yardstick, Kamala Harris bailing out people that firebomb federal buildings.
That is
Glenn,
not true.
Glenn, talk to me. You have
Yeah, that's just complete nonsense.
something to say.
Yeah, I actually think
Yeah, this is what pisses me off right here. I just want to point this out real quick. This is what drives me up a wall. Okay? There is no subjective truth. It's either true or it's not true. And it drives me insane when people bring these guys on to debate something that's factual. It's a factual claim. Either Kamala Harris bailed out insurrectionists or whatever the hell the claim is from Alex Jones, or she didn't. The answer is she did not. That's not up for debate. This shouldn't even be the topic of a debate. It shouldn't even be brought up in a debate. It's either true or it's not true. Debates are for opinions, not facts. That's how I see it anyway.
That is
Glenn,
not true.
Glenn, talk to me. You have something to say.
Yeah, I actually think what Destiny and what Ed are saying are very important. First of all, I was going to say that I think one of the problems with how these things are debated is that a lot of people these days have very binary prisms for understanding things. A lot of that comes from YouTube debate where you have to
And that's why the Civil War was not an insurrection, right?
declare yourself on one side or the other. So Destiny said, oh, everybody either hates this insurrection, thinks it's an insurrection, or they deny it happens, or they think it's good. And there's so much middle ground. Namely that for me, this was a political protest that spilled over into a riot where a small minority of the people engaged in violence. I don't think we want to urge that to happen. We don't want to defend that. I consider
Wow, what happened to the whole Antifa claim? I thought that it was, I mean, Alex Jones even claimed that Antifa was there doing all of this stuff.
that lamentable. But the fact that it's laughable to call this an insurrection is actually demonstrated by the examples that they're using. This was a 3-hour riot that was extremely easily subdued. It doesn't remotely compare to any prior insurrections, let alone to the Civil War. The only people who were killed on January 6th were 4 people, all 4 of whom
Nobody has to die for something to be an insurrection. There doesn't even have to be violence to any degree for something to be an insurrection at all. It can be a planned attempt to bypass the laws or authorities of the government. And that is absolutely exactly what took place that day on January 6th. Joe Biggs of the Proud Boys, Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers, they committed insurrection. They attempted an insurrection. Whether they succeeded or not is completely irrelevant. Whether the other people at January 6th were guilty of this or involved in any way, irrelevant. It was an insurrection, period.
were Trump supporters, 2 of whom dropped out of a heart attack and 1 from a speed overdose, because these were not exactly a well-trained militia.
Okay, so he's pointing out that one of the people died of a heart attack, but he's leaving out the fact that a Trump supporter sprayed him with bear spray, which put him in the hospital which eventually killed him. He was attacked, he was assaulted, and that led to his death.
And when Jack Smith went to charge Donald Trump with multiple crimes, he had a lot of options to charge him with, and he charged him with a lot of crimes, including very dubious ones. He did not charge him with inciting an insurrection for reasons that I think we ought to ask ourselves why. But the fact that this is such a minor event in history is demonstrated.
Is there even, like, aside, I think there's an insurrection law on the books, right? I'm not sure. I know that the Constitution defines it, but that's not a law. That's more of a permission slip of what people are allowed to do and not allowed to do. And laws can be built around the Constitution. So I'm not sure if that's like, I'm not sure if that's like, you can't be charged by something in the Constitution, I don't think.
Demonstrated by the fact that the media, who needed this to be a major event, immediately started lying about what happened, saying that Brian Sicknick was murdered when he had his head bashed in through a fight with a fire extinguisher, only to learn that actually he called his mother that night. He was fine. He died the next day.
What does this have to do with the fact that Trump tried to do an insurrection? This is completely unrelated. I don't care how many people lived or died that day. Well, I do care about those people, but I don't care about it in the sense that it's irrelevant toward whether or not it was an insurrection. It does not matter.
Coroner said were natural causes, because the media knew that if you can't say that even one person supposedly perpetrating the insurrection killed anybody, pulled out a gun, let alone discharged the weapon, all of which is true, it's a joke to call this an insurrection. At best, it's a riot. And that's the reason why Trump hasn't been charged with an insurrection.
No, weapons were buried around Washington, D.C., around the area, weapons caches, so that when they finally broke through barriers and got a hostage and stuff, they could start a full-blown war. The plan was to start a full-blown war by Joe Biggs and Stuart Rhodes and others. That was the goal. We have a ton of video footage from these people talking to each other about the plan. There was a militia of people waiting on the other side of the bridge to be called in when they got people in place. They never managed to get people in place where they wanted them because the whole thing was, basically the rebellion was quelled before they had an opportunity. The congressmen were brought to a safe area and they didn't manage to get any hostages. It was absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, an attempted rebellion. It was a coup. It was an insurrection.
Only time he ever commented on January 6th about whether he thought there should be violence or not was when he said the following. He said, "I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." He urged them to be peaceful.
Yeah, except Donald Trump didn't have to communicate with these people at all because his buddy Roger Stone, who was convicted of a whole bunch of stuff up to and including communicating with Russian hackers to get harmful information about his political opponents, about Donald Trump's political opponents. Roger Stone met with the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers leaders in a parking garage the night before everything went down. This is absolutely an insurrection. It was absolutely an insurrection.
How they went there. To the extent there was violence, I think you can make the argument that the FBI informants that even the New York Times admits were there were the ones that urged it. But even if the people who were there were the ones responsible, at best this is a riot. You could so easily make the case that the 2020 riots were a far greater insurrection.
I assume 2020 riots, he's talking about Black Lives Matter. I don't know of any riots, actually. There probably were some riots, some looting. It was, by and large, all just protesting. I can't name a single place where an actual full-blown riot happened. I'm sure there may be somewhere.
Threat than anything that happened on January 6th.
That's perfectly said. I would ask I would ask the left over here. I know Ian's asked the questions. I mean, I don't know. Did you guys see Biden's speech? I mean, it was an hour long that no one there was good. They were all there. Over a million people. I was there.
I didn't hear Biden say anything about that. I mean, I don't know what speech he's even referring to, but I didn't hear anything like that. Biden didn't say literally everybody at January 6th was evil and a terrorist and all that junk. He did, however, say that there were domestic terrorists there, and he's accurate about that one.
There. And then we marched down there to have another rally, and then I see this terrible thing happening. It was medieval, and then Biden saying they're all bad, and we can't let you vote for Trump. I mean, come on, man.
We have a clip from Biden's speech I want to play, and then let's get back to you, Destiny. You had something to say, but if you guys have this, it's clip number 4, Biden's speech. This is from yesterday's. It's only 50 seconds.
There is no structure to this, and as a result, some people are talking way more. They're getting way more debate time because Alex Jones is used to just spouting off nonsense 24/7.
Seconds, but let's load this up. Not sure what
Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault.
Absolutely.
They were insurrectionists, not patriots. They weren't there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. Trump won't do what an American president must do. He refuses to denounce political violence. So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't.
I remember. I didn't actually watch this speech, but I remember it now.
So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't. Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never.
Those are the Democrats.
It has no...
What about the Democrats? Nobody cares. You hear Alex Jones in the background? It's never acceptable, says Joe Biden. And instead of agreement, Alex Jones says, well, we're not the ones doing it. I don't give a shit who's doing it. Joe Biden, by definition, included Democrats under that umbrella. Political violence is wrong, no matter who's doing it, period. Can you say the same, Alex?
Place in a democracy, none. You can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. And yet Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it.
The insurrection is the open border.
So the insurrection was not just the 3-hour riot that happened at the White House.
It's another little claim stuck in there. The insurrection is the open border. What does that even mean? What is he even talking about? I think what he's saying is that Joe Biden is shuttling in waves of immigrants over the border so that they can vote for Joe Biden against Donald Trump in the election, the upcoming election. That's not how it works. There's a long process to gain citizenship. I think it's a 7-year-long process. And the border policies are no different now than they were under Donald Trump, basically.
Insurrection is the open border.
So the insurrection was not just the 3-hour riot that happened at the White House afterwards. I think that's the least charitable reading of everything that happened. And that's not, if you read any of the charges that either Jack Smith or the Georgia RICO case has alleged against Trump, are saying that, in fact, not much of the focus is on the 3-hour riot at all. Not much of that.
Hold on, Alex. Let Stephen finish his thought first.
Yeah, because Alex won't shut up. Give somebody else an opportunity here. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. These people are absurd.